There's 24 things that top producing real estate agents do that the average real estate agent doesn't do. So if you're not hitting your commission goals, you're not making the income that you want to make as a real estate agent, the only thing you should be focused on doing is seeing what you're currently doing that the other top performing real estate agents are not doing. And basically by doing that inversion, by seeing what the top producing agents are doing and what you're not doing, and then starting doing those same things, you'll be able to achieve also obviously similar results. Now, the first thing is that the average real estate agent is focused on promoting. And based on working with over 800 real estate agents, one-on-one personally in the trenches, intimately with the clients, ranging from beginner real estate agents all the way back to top 10 producing real estate agents in the whole country, we have been able to find that the average real estate agent, the old way real estate agent, is always focused on promoting. And the new way, right, the best top performing real estate agents are always focused on advising. Now, what is the difference between these two? Well, promotion mindset always focuses on the short term. These types of people, they're always thinking about the next postcard campaign. They're always thinking about the next lead generation platform. They're always thinking about, okay, how many cold calls am I going to do today, right? That's sort of like the mindset of like, I'm just going to promote, right? And then something happens if it happens. It's kind of like pulling rabbit out of the hat mentality. The best real estate agents, the top real estate agents, they have more like an advising sort of a mind frame, where essentially they're doing their marketing from a place where they're actually advising their clients and they're actually providing value with their marketing. So a lot of the times these top producing real estate agents, even when you listen to a phone conversation with the clients, it sounds completely different, even though even the script can be relatively the same. The actual strategy is the same, but the way it's implemented is completely different. And you can see this big shift, especially on social media, obviously, because the average real estate agent, they're always posting just sold, just listed. They're using some sort of automated tool, while the top producers are always creating valuable content, really, that provides some sort of goodwill to the marketplace, right? And that always gets more reach, always gets more views, always gets more leads, right? So there's a big difference between these two mentalities. And you want to be obviously on the advising side. Now, the second thing is that the old way, right, these real estate agents that are still stuck in these old habits, right, they're usually often actually very busy. So oftentimes people think that, okay, well, if somebody doesn't sell houses, they must not be working. They must not doing a lot of work, right? But actually what we have found is that the biggest thing with these people, they always say that they don't have the time. So they're always very busy. Actually, they're driving, they're always creating some sort of promotion, they're always on the run, they're all over the place, but they're always very, very busy. These people that are top producers, they're busy as well, but they're actually focused and organized on key tasks. And what we have found is that actually top producers, they may sometimes have a vacation, maybe they sometimes be on holiday, but what they do is that when they work, they actually organize their tasks. They schedule their time slots. They're putting in the hours on certain key tasks that they need to accomplish, while they have that big vision in mind about the long-term success of the business, the long-term things they want to build in the business. Now, let's go over the third thing. And third thing is transactional style, right? For these people that don't sell a lot of houses, right? They're kind of stuck in the old ways. They're always about sales, 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 and nothing else matters except sales, right? And the problem with that mindset is that real estate is a very, very long-term game, right? Let's say you get a lead today. Well, there's a 99% chance the lead is not going to sell their house today, right? They're going to sell their house 1 month from here, 3 months from here, 6 months from here, 12 months from here. And because of that reason, this sort of like short-term sales mentality, where I'm going to get my next sale from, right? It's always going to lead into failure because your decisions are always going to be based from your interests rather than the client's interests. So the top producers, they always prioritize the building goodwill with people. And again, realizing that maybe they don't get a transaction today, but it can be a transaction 3 months from here, 6 months from here, 12 months from here. And then when you do that with enough people, you're going to have a big pool of people, right, that just refer your business. They do business together with you. They sell houses with you, right? You're going to have a client for life. Now, the old way people, they also get people to dislike them because of this, right? Because they're not in that sales mentality. Sometimes they overpromise, right? Sometimes they don't follow up on people, right? Because they're in that mentality, right? People dislike them because it's very salesy. And again, you get people to dislike you that way. The top producers, oftentimes, even though they're top producers, people love them. They view them as helpful guides, and their time is valuable. So actually, they even respect the top producer a lot more. So the old way person, right, the old way realtor is always a short-term thinker. And that's fundamentally the mentality. The problem with this model is that if you're doing like what most real estate agents are doing, you're always going to be thinking in 1 month increment, 2 week increments, sometimes even a couple of days increments. And you can never really do that for long periods of time because every day is going to be short term. Every day is short term, right? So when you think that way, you're always stuck in that hamster wheel. With top producers, they think long term. They realize that, okay, if I start doing social media today, maybe it doesn't result into listing tomorrow. But maybe if I do social media for 1 year, I do it for 2 years, I do it for 3 years, it's going to completely change my business. I'm going to get a lot of listings, I'm going to be a lot of goodwill, build a lot of relationships, right? And again, same goes for marketing decisions, right? It's very different when you make decisions from long-term versus short-term. Because if you make decisions for a short-term, well, what makes sense on the short-term? Well, I just do something that's going to bring me leads quickly, right? But over the long term, what you really want to do is to build a robust marketing machine that will bring you leads over the long term, over and over again, right? Without you having to chase people around. But again, that mentality will affect all of your decisions. Are you thinking short term or long term? Same goes for learning skills, right? So a lot of the times, because if people think short term, right, they're going to always think that they're not tech savvy, right? Because if you think short term, it never really makes sense to learn a skill. Because why would you learn a tool like social media? Or why would you learn video content? Or why would you learn how you can run your funnel, right, when you're thinking short term? It doesn't make any sense if you're thinking short term in the old way, right? You always want to delegate it, right? You always want to hire somebody. You always want to just buy some tool, right? And you're always just going to say to yourself, well, I'm not tech savvy if you're in that old mentality, right? But for top producers, they spend time learning things. And this is the funny part, right? But top producers actually invest a lot into coaching. They invest a lot into information, right? They spend time learning, okay, well, how does a funnel work? Or how does a video creation work, right? Or how does a YouTube ad work? Like, how do I record a YouTube ad, right? They spend the time learning things because they think long term and they realize that, okay, 6 months from here, 12 months from here, I'm going to have this skill and it will bring me listings over and over again. Now, obviously, as a result of these two things, the low producing real estate agents, they often automate their marketing, while the top producer often creates their own content, right? Because again, if you think short term, why would you create your own content? It doesn't make sense, right? Because you have to learn the content, you have to create the content. And so if you think very short term, you just buy something quickly, right? Put it out there. And again, you're not going to invest into the skills. While the top producer, they create their own content. You actually look up a lot of the top producing real estate agents. Very rarely do you see any kind of automated content. You always see, let's say you go to Ryan Insurance page, right? You see Ryan Insurance. Now, obviously, right, you want to leverage teams, right? You have teams, people working for you, things like this. But it's the real estate agent in the content. They're representing themselves with their social media content. Now, basically what happens as a result of these two things is that the average real estate agents that's more on a low performing side, right, they kind of blend in with the other agents. So it becomes this big pool of people, right, that are all basically clones of each other. And that's what happens typically with the old way real estate agents. They learn something from their brokerage, they do the same thing as their brokerage, and then what ends up happening is that they don't do very much business. While the top producing real estate agent, they stand out from the competition, right? But why do they stand out? Well, let's take a look at it, right? They're doing different things from the average real estate agent, right? Average thinks short term, they think long term. Average automates stuff, top performing one has unique original content, right? And then, okay, we prioritize building goodwill for long term versus just trying to get the lead. So we're always doing different things at each stage. And these are the things that seem very small, but they stack up as we add in all of these different things. And so as a result of that, right, when we repeat this pattern over a year, over 2 year, 3 year time period, immediately the top producing real estate agent, they stand out and becomes this kind of like a feedback loop where, okay, the top producer, now they get a listing, right? They market the listing really well. So now they get a referral. Well, now they sell that listing great again. They get another listing and they get another listing, another listing, another listing. You look back 1 year later, right? Well, how is this realtor selling 50 houses? How is this realtor selling 100 houses? Well, that's why, right? These things, they add up and they create that exponential loop. Now, the average real estate agent that doesn't do really well, right? They usually fear new technology, right? Whenever there's AI, whenever there's something new coming to the market, they're always very afraid of that. But the top producer is always on the cutting edge. They're always interested in, okay, well, how can I use this machine? And one of the biggest things is actually, and this is the interesting part, is that the top producer, they're very quick to go into the new technology, while the low producing person, they're kind of like usually very afraid. So what happens essentially, let's say AI comes in, well, the average real estate agents that's not doing really well, they're kind of like afraid of it. I'm like, okay, well, maybe I'll do it once I see everybody try it. And then they wait for 5 years, 10 years. But once that trend is already adapted, right, well, they're not going to get any edge. So the top producers, they know that, and they actually adapt quickly, and they hire coaching, they hire help, take the expert, take the best person in the game, right? They hire the help and implement that technology directly to their businesses. And that's one of the biggest things, is that if you know how to leverage machines, right, you can really scale much further than, let's say, just trying to do it the old way. Now, ultimately what happens as a result of these two things is that the average real estate agents that's not doing really well, they're always in the sales mentality, so they have to rely on prospecting to get clients. So it becomes very inconsistent, it becomes almost like frustrating oftentimes, and then they don't have a lot of money in the bankroll either to spend on any sort of marketing, right, because all of those things they haven't done. While the top agents, because of that feedback cycle, right, well, they have money to spend on advertising, they have money to create content, they have money to hire people to help them with the content, right? And so ultimately, yes, they do some sort of prospecting, right, but usually they get a lot of inbound sales from referrals, they get a lot of inbound leads coming in, people reaching out to them. So usually their time is spent a lot more focusing on sort of these like warmer / hotter opportunities, compared to these agents that are more on the older side, where you just have to kind of like prospect cold people that have never really met them, never really seen them. And it all comes down to the pipeline, right? If you have the pipeline, you have that big pool of people that like you, trust you, they want to work with you, right? Well, that's just going to feed on itself over and over again. So that's the super important piece. Now, lastly, we can go over the difference between mentalities about social media. So oftentimes, average real estate agent, the person that doesn't do really well, that sells less than that 5 houses per year, they say that they don't like social media oftentimes. So they say, I don't like social media, but when you actually look at the data, they consume a lot of social media. So it's not the fact that they don't like social media, they consume a lot of social media. They look at Instagram Reels, they look at YouTube videos, they look at social media content. They like to consume the content, but they think that it doesn't work for their business, right? While the top producer is a social media creator. They use social media for their businesses, right? They create content, they run ads, they do these things on social media. Maybe they consume a little bit of social media, but usually not that much, right? Because they're busy working with clients, busy growing their businesses, busy actually using social media to grow their business, right? So, and that's the biggest difference. Are you a consumer? Are you a creator on these platforms, especially nowadays, because the content is great, right? There's a lot of info, right? But you have to be on the other side where you are the person creating a content, not the one consuming it as much, right? There's a balance, of course, on these two. Social media, like videos like this, can be a great value place for many people. You can educate yourself, you can learn new things for sure as well. Now, the fundamental difference, if we boil it down to two things, is do you want to be a value taker or value giver? Because the thing is, if you are in that value taking slide, you're always going to be in a place where it's going to be hard to get business, right? It's going to be difficult to be able to get in front of people. It's going to be difficult for you to have ads that are getting you leads, right? It's always going to be difficult to create the income because you don't have the leads to generate the listing appointments to now sell the listings, right? And so if you're always in that value taking place, right, you're always stuck in sort of like desperation mode when it comes down to your business. Now, the top producers, they are value givers. And what it basically means is that fundamentally, if they meet a person and they never do business with them, they will still provide the value. So because they understand that, okay, maybe this person doesn't do business, but if I still give them the value, right, if I do that over and over again, at some point, somebody will reciprocate, they will refer me business, they will do business with me personally, right, whatever the case may be. And so fundamentally, as you go about making your marketing decisions this year, right, ask yourself, do you want to be on the value taking or value giving side? And if you want to be the top producer side, you have to be on the value giving side. You have to be on the long-term side. You have to be value giving not only for others, but also for yourself when it comes down to the long term, right? Learning skills, thinking long term, right? Creating your own content, standing out, right? Making the right decisions, building goodwill, building relationships. And then if you do that over and over again, right, it's going to stack up. And the funny thing is, it's going to happen sooner than you think. So if you make this decision right now, going to the new way as opposed to the old way, again, you're going to see big differences. And these are some of the things we have learned based on working with realtors over the last 8 years.